Alright, so this is Karina and here is my assignment submission for 2.5. So this is the map of Europe that I found. So what I have here is the Soviet Union, displayed by the green Smarties. Italy, with orange. Germany is the ever-feared yellow. France is purple. The British Isles are pink, and Spain is brown. If you're wondering why there are these colors, it's just because that's the color that they are on the map, and it's easy for me to think about it. Um, so basically what was happening around this time was the Great Depression had kind of destroyed the world. um, it wasn't just in North America, it was also affecting Europe with all of these stocks going up and down, and the economy was just totally flatlined, and it was a terrible time. Not a lot of people had any money anymore. Even the big corporations were really struggling, and this made a lot of people very upset and angry, especially on top of what had just happened with World War One. Even though the Allies did win, Germany certainly wasn't happy, especially after the Treaty of Versailles, or however you properly pronounce it. Um, so what was happening was there was a boy in Austria, which is Austria is somewhere near Germany here. Hold on, just let me look at it without my Austria, right here. It's pink. It's kind of little and small, and you can't really see it. And look at my fingers. Ugh. So there was a boy in Austria, and he was rather upset with how the world was run, and by this time he had already been kicked out of school, and he had an uninspiring education, I guess you could say. He had tried to apply for art schools in Vienna, but he was denied that privilege, and after that he was homeless for a few years. And he eventually started living in Germany, and then became a part of the German Workers' Party. He quickly became the leader of the German Workers' Party, and by the way, its slang name was, you guessed it, the Nazi Party. And Hitler was incredible because he promised economic, military, and political salvation to the nation of Germany. Um, and Germany quickly saw the Nazi Party become this superpower, and all of a sudden it seemed like the Nazi Party was controlling Germany, which it totally was. All of a sudden, the Nazi Party was banning all of the other political parties, controlling the media with propaganda, and creating the Hitler Youth Program, which so many German youth took part of because they had to, not really because of not really because it was a choice. So at the same time, I mean, the other countries aren't stupid. They can see what's happening. At the same time, we have France and Britain, who are kind of middlemen, you could say. I guess they're really just trying to stop Germany from being crazy. um, they keep trying to have these meetings and figure out what they can do to stop it, but they keep disagreeing themselves. France is totally up for stopping Hitler by force, while Britain doesn't think that's a very good idea, or they're just not as willing to stop Hitler with violence as France is. And at the same time, of course, we have the Soviet Union, who is now, well, not anymore, but who was at the time ruled by a man named Joseph Stalin, who controlled the Communist Party. Stalin had a set of 5-year plans, and they were all based on economic growth and stuff like that, basically trying to get the Soviet Union out of the large hole it had dug itself into during the Dirty 30s. Some things did get better, like, for example, the economy, so I guess in that way the plans did work, but then at the same time, they also starved Ukraine to the point that it actually became a genocide. And other rather unpleasant things. Stalin was known for using police terror as his main vice, as compared to Hitler, who is known for using his words and his basically his convincing matter to sway the people's opinions. Um, so in Italy, we have a man named Benito, and Italy is trying to not be like France and the British Isles, and trying to really be its own country and go back to the old ways because World War I had really shaken Italy up. Um, when Italy went into World War I, they wanted to get more land, but that didn't happen, and in fact, Italy ended up losing a lot of soldiers during World War I, and it was really a really big tragedy for Italy. Um, Mussolini started an organization called the Fascists, which gave him the support of the Catholic community, and he was really known for just gaining support when it was needed. Whereas Hitler, it was, it seemed like he was a very, it's all about me. He was a very self-centered leader. He knew that he was the guy that was going to get him to the top, where Joseph Stalin knew that the more connections you have, the better chance you're going to have at actually getting places in the world. But Mussolini was a little bit different because he figured that I only need to have connections when they're really vital. So that made all the major world dictators at the time very, very different from each other. And also, to kind of wrap up Italy's story, in the May of 1936, Italian forces invaded and captured the capital of Ethiopia, which was kind of, you could say, one of the definite kickstarters for World War II. Now we have Spain here, and Spain is going through a civil war right after the First World War, which is insane. And what was happening was the industrial workers wanted money that was held by the church and the landlords to be redistributed out into the public so that people wouldn't be starving and poverty wouldn't run rapid in Spain anymore. But Spain didn't really want to do that, and that's why the Civil War happened. But then Spain became a republic in 1931, but the nation was definitely divided. Um, so if you look into it at all, you can see that there's a definite parallel between what was happening in Spain then and what's happening in Ukraine now, which is a really scary thought, because we also know that Spain was also you could say that Spain was also a big part in why World War II began, because of all the fighting in their own country. Other than that, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about what was exactly happening in all of the really main countries in before World War II. I guess I could include a little bit about Japan here, even though Japan's not really on the map. But in the 1920s, Japan was a very, very large superpower. It was a super nation, being the leading Asian industrial nation and also the only independent Asian power with colonies. However, once the economy really crashed during the Dirty 30s, and silk demand decreased because for some reason silk wasn't, necessary, not like food or anything, Japan basically lost everything that they'd ever had and became heavily dependent on the Chinese province Manchuria. So Japan basically just lived off Manchuria for a long time during the Depression. And the longer the Depression went on, the more heavily reliant Japan became. In July of 1937, when Japanese expansion was heavy, Japan was seen as a potential hostile power to America. and you could say that that was also, it was definitely one of the factors that influenced the start of World War II. Basically, all of these countries, communication was poor. Everyone was pretty sure that everyone was against them, even though they had just recovered from, well, they were trying to recover from World War One, but everyone was definitely watching their back. That's pretty much all I have to say before World War II began. Alright, this has been great.